Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LP FM. Connecting Highline and our region. Share your story. Our Highline Voices, history, cultural heritage, art, performances, contemporary, pop culture. We are very motivated to provide a vibrant community museum and authentic social gathering place. It truly takes a village to raise a museum. Despite the challenges, our daily inspiration is our eagerness to build a stronger and more connected community. This museum is from the community to the community. Our passion is for our visitors to have access to a broad spectrum of information sources and cultural perspectives. Our Highline Voices.
Hi everyone, this is Nancy from the Highline Heritage Museum and welcome back. We are excited to have our next guest tonight and it's just a pleasure to be with him. I'm going to let Ron to introduce himself, but I just wanted to introduce the idea as to why we're doing this. This is for us to be more inclusive to the community and to just get to know each other more. And so I want to say thank you, Ron, for allowing us to do this interview with you, and we're just excited.
I'm flattered that you asked me.
Well, we've been working with you with several projects, so I think it was needed for us to tell people, okay, who is Ron and what are we working with him and what is his role in the different projects that we are developing in the museum. So, Ron, introduce yourself and let's start.
Well, thank you. The first showing of my work that we had here at the museum, we hung on a Tuesday, and the Wednesday following it, the museum was closed for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was not a very auspicious start, although I thought the show looked pretty good.
Yeah.
We've lived in the Seattle area for a very long time and lived in the Highline area in the 60s before we spent a few years back east. And we moved back to the Highline area about 6 years ago.
Okay.
And quickly found the museum, which was brand new then, for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and fell in love with it. So I was glad to have my work shown here. I consider myself a full-time photographer. I just don't have to make a living at it. The first 30 years of my post-college was in engineering. My college training was in engineering, which would now be computer science more than engineering. And I spent a long time designing and implementing control systems for various things that fly through the air, basically, including the Saturn V booster, the one that pushed the astronauts to the moon.
Mm.
That was an exciting time to be an engineer because there was all this momentum behind that program, and everybody was excited about it and working very hard to make it come true, which it did. And and then I also did a fair amount of work on orbital rendezvous control and attitude control of the spacecraft in orbit, and that sort of thing. So I was an honest to goodness rocket scientist for about 10 years.
Wow.
And then we moved back east in the late 60s to a research firm there, which the major project there was automotive safety and crashworthiness. And I can very proudly say that I had a small but critical role in getting the airbag introduced as a safety device in the automobile. That saved thousands of lives. So I feel very good about that.
Wow.
And then we moved back out here and in the mid-50s, and I worked again in aerospace, but mostly in scientific software by then, which I did until I retired. I never looked back. Since retiring, I took a vow to not write another computer program, and I've considered myself a full-time photographer since then. And if somebody asks me if I'm an artist, I say I'm a photographer, and that's a statement of fact.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the prints that I produce are art, and I have prints in the Walker Art Institute in Minneapolis, and the collection of MOHAI downtown. and the Bowerbird Foundation in Philadelphia, and a couple of others, of course, here. And sometimes what I do is journalism, and I've got pictures in both of the Seattle papers and the old Highline Times, and you have a complete press run of the Highline Times here. It would be interesting to see if I could find some of them. And the Buffalo Evening News, which was where we were living back east, and the New York Times. I've had pictures of a journalistic sense in the New York Times twice.
Wow.
And but I'm in the very comfortable position of not having to try to make a living with it. But I'm doing it because I love it. So that's about where we are now.
The you're taking me by surprise. I guess we don't really have much time to sit down and talk and really get to know a little bit more. It's always been, okay, this is the agenda of the day and let's address that.
Yes.
The very first time, yes. We opened the museum and then we had to close it 6 months later because of COVID. And it was a really hard moment because I realized that we were one of the first museums that closed before everyone else did. And why did we do it like that is that this is a volunteer run organization. And I don't think it could have been really responsible to expose our volunteers like that without really knowing how dangerous this thing was. It's almost like sending the wrong message that our priorities were the museum before the people, and that's not what we wanted to do. So it was all first to protect the people. But unfortunately, when we opened the museum, it was right with your exhibit, and it was like, man, like, do we want to do this? And then I think that we just vocalized the same as millions of people around the planet had to shut down.
Yeah.
Wanting, no one in that at all. So that was that. But then when one of the benefits is that I never stopped working. I always came every day here, and so I saw it every single day. And then when we finally opened, we extended these hours.
Yes.
And so it was not like we return it to you or no, we get it back to you.
Oh.
Actually, it just stay a little longer. So in my benefit, in my case, I was able to enjoy it more than anyone else, more in extended periods of time. So thank you for that opportunity, your patience with us through that process.
Well, I admired your policy of closing because of concern for your volunteers. I admired you very much for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was it was needed. It's like those values of
Yes.
integrity, of making sure that we are protecting and making sure that we're sending a message that no, we do care for people and we want to make sure that that was clear at all levels, either publicly or internally. You know, how can I look at my volunteers and like, sorry, you're gonna stay through a pandemic?
Yeah.
I just cannot do that. Anyway, so that was that, and then we moving on to get to know you more with more exhibits through Artists United. I know that you had several photography displayed in the conference room for several times.
Yeah, I have one piece in the current show that's up, in fact. So
Yeah, and so there's always been a joy to continue to see. And then little by little getting exposed to more of your work has been a joy. We do have one project that is happening and is taking place right now. And I don't know, I'm just very curious to see how you feel with that. And what this is by the time we had this interview, you'll see that hopefully, the two of us are like, hopefully,
yes.
You'll see that we have on the outside of the building a roll of photos representing the community. And it is, the message is silent, but we hope it's clear. The message is that everyone is welcome, everyone is a part of the community, and that it is a safe, inclusive place to not just visit, but work and volunteer and participate and express yourself as a human being. And I hope that you have seen the space here as a medium to represent who you are and bring out the magic, and in this case, but through your photography, up to the public. So do you want to kind of explain a little bit what are we doing outside and then what it means to you?
Sure. And again, I'm flattered that you chose me to do this. I got a call from Nancy saying, you photograph people a lot. Yes, I do. Do you have photographs that represent a diversity of ethnicities and identities and ages and well, yeah. So I rounded up, I don't know, 50 prints that I thought were possible. I had no idea what Nancy had in mind and brought them all down and we looked at them and she selected a couple of dozen and then she sprung the fact on me that they were to be printed 10 feet high. Well, that's a bit of a new one for me, I assure you. I'm thinking in terms of inches, not feet, when you mentioned the number 10. So I was mildly surprised, not particularly, but mildly surprised how much information there is in a silver print, a regular film print. So I popped one of the ones that you had chosen into my computer and ratcheted it up until it would have been 10 feet high, and it was still there. The tones were still distinct. It was nice and contrasty. It looked like it was going to work, and I was delighted to be able to show my work at that size. I've never seen my prints printed anywhere near that big. The biggest before that was maybe 4 feet at the show at Bumbershoot last fall, yes. And I went by the print shop the other day uh, to take one file that I needed to correct, and they had printed a prototype, which was maybe 4 or 5 feet tall, and it looked just splendid. I'm delighted with how it looked, and having that up there is going to be a real pleasure every time I drive by here. So again, thank you for thinking of me for this.
No, I think that it's not like it's only one person looking at this, it's a community looking at this. And I think it's always been that that message passing on to all levels that we are doing this as a community. And no, I was not the only one selecting this. I will be asking people around. I will check with my board. I will check with my volunteers. I will like, okay, this is not just a one person's decision, and it's like making sure that like how you feel, how it's representing the museum's values, and not just not just the museum, but also the community. Are we really being inclusive? I'm done with talking. I mean, we can talk a lot. Oh yeah, we inclusive. Oh yeah, we cultivate diversity, but our actions actually showing that? And it's been really interesting too. So for some people, they don't see it that we are doing the work. For some people, they see it, but it's depending on how and where, how you're doing it. And in this case, we hope that not only will represent the museum's values, but also a message to the whole community that we're here representing everyone outside of the museum. The work alone is beautiful. I mean, your photography is absolutely gorgeous. I love it.
Thank you.
The people that we are representing is just one thing is you're working completely different. The actual people, the people that are on the photos,
Yes.
and the expressions, the eyes, they're just bringing a little bit of themselves into the photo. And yes, it's a lot of information that you can capture with one image. And I mean, from a smile to, anyway, they're saying that the way we humans communicate with each other is only 7%. Everything else is reading facial expressions, energy, and all kinds of things.
That's not at all surprising to me. Because that's what I look for when I'm photographing people is that, of course, it's wonderful to photograph a beautiful person, but not everybody is beautiful. Everybody's wonderful, but not necessarily a movie star pretty. The other aspect that you haven't mentioned about the work that's going up on the outside of the building is that that's going to be a real eye catcher for everybody that drives by. That wall is pretty blank right now and facing on Embaum Avenue. And it's going to make a lot of people that are maybe only marginally aware that the museum is there, it will catch an eye or two, and I feel good about that also.
Thank you. I think that yeah, one of the comments that we have been receiving throughout the years is that it doesn't look like a museum outside.
Yes.
It just doesn't, and then we're trying to meet the standards as what the city is allowing us to do with this area, the community. And it is great that we are complying with the regulations and the standards, and it's good. And we don't want to cause trouble. We want to follow the rules. But then it's also hurting us internally because as a cultural institution, it just doesn't speak as being a place to truly nurture creativity and artistic expressions. And so the idea of doing something as simple as just showing images of the community, I think is something that we're really excited. And yes, hopefully people will be more attracted when like, okay, I'm curious, what else did they have
Yeah, right,
inside?
exactly.
But like what else is going on inside? And yes, I would like to see that. And then hopefully just be not only awareness, but knowing that this is their place to play and to
Mhm.
have fun. And as you've been experiencing with us, this is your space. Not just you, but anyone who would like to collaborate with us, is that we offer the stage and the microphone and the light. And then you are the ones who are speaking to the public. You are the ones who are displaying part of who you are in public.
And the programming that you have here is very much oriented towards the community. I mean, the Seven Stories program, I think is just wonderful. And that's one of lots of things that are going on here where the community is involved in what's going on here.
Yeah, the Seven Stories is composed by many different entities, and that's what I love about that is that it's not just the museum doing it. There's many other people doing it outside, and then incorporating and to me it speaks as a partnership and just a partnership, and that's exactly what we want to do.
Mhm.
Is the partnership either as a visitor, either an artist, or either as a person who's participating or volunteering or being a board member or supporting. And so it's just an engagement that we hope that we honor that engagement and that we continue to cultivate those. It's not like, oh, we did this and then we call it a day and then there's nothing else to do. No, it's the
Right.
opposite, is that we do something and then now we need to maintain it. We need to refresh it. We need to keep going and constantly making sure that we're up to today and how we can do our job a lot better. But going back to you, now we talk a lot about the
Okay.
museum. Now I go
All right.
back to you. The concept of being a photographer and capturing the human element. As you know, my hearing is bad, and I rely heavily on body expressions, body language, visual, reading lips, and feeling just the energy of the person. And it really got my attention when you say that you kind of do the same in a way when you take photography, or when you take some photos to people. I One of the things I like about not just how you working with your subjects and how you trying to bring out that silent language out and so people can actually connect with it, but also how you're doing it. Some of your photography, you're using an actual camera, not digital,
Not digital.
and you're using actual film.
That's me.
And if you don't mind sharing, like we are not going to go to details here, but
Okay.
no, but like one of the examples that we worked together, you were using a real black and white film with a camera. What year was that camera again?
Um, well, it depends on which one I was using that day. Um, the one that I think I was using that night is a 1955
55.
Rolleiflex, which it takes 2¼ square inch square roll film rather than the 35 millimeter. And I love that camera. It's one of the best lenses ever made. So I use it a lot. When I can use it on a tripod, I use that camera a lot. I do have some newer cameras. The newest ones were made in 1978.
1978. So how many years ago?
Yeah, well, it was a little while.
Yeah.
But yes, and I do film on purpose. Uh, for one reason, I've done that for a long time, and I really enjoy the craft of printing as well as the photography itself. And the craft in the darkroom, which the usual opinion is, oh, that's all mechanical. Well, it's not. There's a lot. Uh, Photography is kind of there's art in photography in two places. One of which is when you're out with the camera, saying, "My eye says I want to show you this rather than that," and everything else that's in the scene there. And then the craft is making the camera record what I've seen.
Mhm.
Then after the film is developed, the art is deciding how I want the print to look based on what that negative looks like. And the craft is making it look like that. But I enjoy that entire process, and I intend to keep on doing that as long as my feet hold out, because it's all standing up to do that. What little color work I do digitally. I just I beg your pardon. I have a newer camera than that. That's a digital camera. Uh, I tried my hand at color printing from film,
Mm.
and in a flash of insight, I realized that I wasn't having any fun, so I stopped doing it.
Well, that's the key right there. You need to
It-
have fun in the
that
process.
was it was pretty obvious that that was not meeting the criterion. So, and in fact, I was printing last week. I was in the darkroom printing on another project that I'm working on, and I do work mostly in projects. Uh, the photographs that you chose are from things happening around the community, uh, but they would be grouped. Some of them would be grouped with street festivals, and some of them would be grouped with concerts and so forth. Uh, but it's kind of fun to take selections from a number of those projects and have them then fit together again for a different purpose. That was fun. That selection and editing process to make that happen was fun.
Mm. No, that's we started to show the design of this project to a lot of people last week, and everyone that we show it to, it was just all they were excited. They all have kind of the similar comments. That the photographer, they will ask, "Are they the actual photos are you using?" Like, yeah, they are gorgeous. Like, yeah, that's the reason why we're doing it, because they're gorgeous. Um, and so what also got my attention is that you got the two brains. You got the left and the right brain, which means that the one brain wants, just following with the general knowledge of one side of your brain, you're more creative, while the other one is you're more organized, mathematical, and logical. You being as an engineer, you use a very different approach to how you see things versus doing it through a photography where you actually slow down and remove all the data and concentrate on that emotional human connection.
That's a very insightful comment that you just made, and that is very hard for me.
Right.
The My engineer brain tends to leap into the foreground, and I don't slow down. I don't savor what's going on in front of me in the way that I do to get the photographs that I want. So that's you understand that really well.
Well, I used to have a mentor, a museum mentor, who used to tell me that I have the two sides. That is either, and when you work in a museum field, you more like a curator. Like you're a curator and you're more organized and you're
Mhm.
more technical and versus the other side, which is open to interpretation. And how do you present that to the public? For me, I love to paint. I love photography. I mean, like, I love taking photos. Um, I love music. I'm horrible singer, and I don't think I will write songs, which actually we did it on here at the museum last Saturday. We had an event for that, and we'll continue to do more of that type of project. But still, I think that artistic representation is just a side of us that we cannot express through words, meaning either through sound or paintings or photographs.
Mhm.
This is a really silent messages that we send out to the public. I mean, if you want to capture pain, if you want to capture something that is moving and beautiful, if you want to capture a moment that one way or another takes your breath away for whatever reason, I think it's just the ability to be sensitive enough to capture those moments.
Mhm.
I've seen photos where you ask a bunch of kids, "Can you take photos of this?" And you can tell right away. And some of them are just doing it for doing it, just really mechanical. There, here's a photo.
Yeah.
Versus the ones that are actually trying to capture, living the moment, living the present, capturing that memory that you add into your collection and in your mind and your soul, like, okay,
Mhm.
this is something beautiful that you add to it. And when you combine the magic of the person themselves as objects that you do in the photograph. I think it's a beautiful exchange that you're having with people in general. And like you said, you've been all over the place.
Yeah.
There seems like even though you've been taking photos for a long time, it seems like now having the time and the space to honor that part of you that really likes it to really take the photos is actually paying off.
Yes, and the notion of being of the organized engineer brain versus the creative brain. The one place where I benefit from that very much is that I have about 60,000 negatives in my on my shelves.
Wow.
I can find things.
How can you find things?
I have a
Very specific.
very simple but very well organized cataloging system that drives a lot of my photography friends nuts. I can say I can look at a print and go find the negative for it is yeah, the engineer brain helps me a lot on that. But what you were saying, one of the photographers whose work I really admire, French, now dead photographer named Edward Bouba, he said that you should always remember that that collection of lines and shapes that you're looking at is a live human being.
Mm.
And I try to keep that in the front of my mind when I'm photographing, especially when I'm photographing specifically portraits. If people in a street festival, I have no control over if it's happening and I like it, I take a photograph of it. But in cases where I'm really either posing or interacting with the person for any length of time, then that thought comes to the front of my mind for just that reason. It's a human being. It's alive. Um, Her eyes or his eyes are a mirror that reflect everything behind them in the world, including me.
Mm.
And that's an attitude that I try to take to my photographs.
Do you apply the same thing, not just through your photographs, but like the idea of living in the moment without the camera?
Yes, I try to.
Because there are moments when I don't have my phone, or my battery is low, or we're moving too fast, and it's just the need to capture it. Like I want to capture the beauty. I want to, this inside thing inside me that I want to fulfill that need to take a photo of it. But there are moments that it's almost like let it go, Nancy, and I let it go, and I just enjoy the moment as it is, and
Yes.
and it's the ability to be present. And I realized that through many years, I will ask people, just, they will shake their hands like, here we go again. You're stopping to take a photo. And when everyone is walking, like, you just go, let me alone and I will continue.
Yeah.
But there's this lack of understanding that I'm living the present through photographs. And not everyone is like that. Do you have encountered people throughout the years where they don't really get why are you taking photos?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Why do you want to photograph me? Why are you photographing this little nothing town in the middle of the cornfield someplace? Why on earth do you want a picture of this? And I have a couple of standard, why do you want to take my picture? Because you look terrific.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You have a problem with that, right? So,
Do you feel that the people that question, especially when when they are the subjects first? Yes, if somebody comes to me, can I take a photo of you? I will be like, how are you going to use it, and why are you using it
yeah.
for? So I can see myself. I've been hesitant to that. Um, but I don't think if you tell me I'm a professional photographer and I just want to capture the present, I will feel okay.
Mhm.
But if I have self-esteem issues, if I'm lack of self-love or self-respect or self-worth, I can see a completely,
Yeah.
I would be really uncomfortable being portrayed like that, because if I don't have that self-love or that self-worth, I don't see, I imagine people not seeing seeing it beautiful, or see something different.
Mhm.
You were making a comment on, you know, beauty. What is beauty to you? I mean, what's beauty? To me, everything is beautiful, even the ugly sides, because there is a fragility, there's scars, there is a raw, something raw that allows you to appreciate it. Um, I don't know. To me, scars and ugliness for some people, it takes you to that vulnerable place where actually that's where you can grow. That's when you can learn. That's when you can evolve and take ownership. And really, it's like, that phoenix, on fire. That's when you can grab all that and to turn into something completely different than if everything is always so perfect that you take for granted the journey of growing, the journey of facing your demons, or the journey of really have that inner communication, that inner dialogue with you, and say it's okay. I have a lot of scars, and I think you've seen some of my scars.
Yes.
I have several scars in my body, and it took me a while to actually say it's okay. It's okay to take them in.
That is a badge of honor that says I survived something.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I confess I'm not, well, one of the most famous photographers, Paul Caponegro, um, living photographers, did a print of a window being washed. The person doing it had a bucket of soapy water and made swirls of soapy water on the window, and he photographed that. I probably would have walked right past that,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't. And I wish that I was more sensitive to the, I guess, inanimate beauty of things like that, and the ability of people to, of the photographers to can take a pair of pears and put them on a dish and make a beautiful photograph. Is I can look at that and say, well, I really that's a wonderful print, and I love it, and it's gorgeous. But I would have never have thought of taking it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you know how, like, when you want to meditate, you like shut down your brain and just let it go and breathe and leave the moment.
Yeah,
I think that we are in a go, 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 go moment constantly and running one thing to the next. And we see
constantly.
all this need for distractions, either through work or commercials or movies or your phone. Or so we are constantly distracted by so many things that you see something beautiful in front of you, and sometimes you don't see it just because you're distracted. You are not living in the present. You're
Yes.
either living in the past or you're living in the future. There's the lack of ability to say, wait, this is a beautiful rainy day with a crazy shape looking cloud on the top, and then for some reason a little sunshine is
Mhm.
going through it in the middle of all that. When you're in a go-go mode, you don't have the ability
Yeah,
to,
you don't
oh,
stop
look
and
at that, it's beautiful. I
yeah.
mean, unless it's something dramatic like a thunder, like, okay, you look up and okay, that is that's when you react. But the concept of what it is to live in the present, is that the photography? That's what photography lets you do?
It to a great extent, it forces me to stop and look. And we were in Hawaii several years ago and stopped at the Bali Lookout. Beautiful, gorgeous, looking down into this lovely valley, and the wind smells like tropical flowers. And a busload of tourists stopped, and they all piled out and took the same picture and got back on the bus and drive away. And I thought, how sad.
Mm,
They they didn't see that. They took a picture of it, and well, I did too, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. But instead of savoring what was going on, they had a 2 minute stop and then were on their way again. And that's not the way I want to do it. I want to be able to relax, to relax and get my what's in front of me to relax, which is not always possible, of course. Again, with a street fair, which I love going to, it's this hubbub, and that's a different kind of environment altogether. Um,
mm-hmm.
and the skill there, the art there is being quick enough to catch the people that are in just the right place for a very short time.
Mm-hmm.
And I fail more often than I succeed in that, and so does every other photographer that's trying to do that. I don't feel badly about it.
Oh, I think that because when you look in the movements, you see my hands trying to capture
Hmm.
the right moment, the right shape, the right condition
Yeah,
of where you want to take a photo of my hand. And so life is a continuous rolling nonstop. And so yes, that's another element to the photography is being able to capture this special moment, that exact moment where everything makes sense. And it's hard because look at me, I cannot stop moving. I cannot stop moving my hands. And so I can see that being a conflict in a way that like you see something beautiful you're trying to capture, but then maybe at many times you might not be able to do it because life just doesn't stop.
exactly.
We are the ones who are stopping and really trying to capture that moment, but everything around us doesn't stop. It continues like that. So we got a few more minutes left. And so before we go, I just wanted to make sure if there's anything else you would like to share, something that we can cover, more about
No,
you.
this has been fun, and I've enjoyed it, and and thinking about it when you asked me to do this interview, caused me to think a good deal about what I wanted to say about why I'm a photographer, uh, and I got interested in photography seriously in the early '60s. A couple of work colleagues were rabid black and white photographers, and they would bring prints in to talk about at lunchtime, and I looked over their shoulders and so. And but until like the sophomore junior year in college, I didn't even own a camera.
Mm.
I had no idea. I knew that there were such things basically. Uh, and I took family snapshots, but it wasn't until again until sort of in the mid '60s that the light bulb kind of came on that that is really an art form I am attracted to. So why not give that a shot, which I did.
Mm-hmm. No, and I'm glad you're doing it. Um, I just hope that people can have the opportunity to see all your work. All your work is so beautiful. And hopefully, even if you don't like the museum for whatever reason, you can still drive by and see his work hanging on the outside of the building. And then knowing that that's what we're trying to do is that we're trying to represent you somehow. Gender, age, ethnicity, sexual orientation, um, or differences. I really believe that we got more things in common than differences, and it's another element of that while celebrating our uniqueness. Because at the end of the day, too, we are really unique, and we bring more into this planet in ways that we don't even know that we are even possible to do it. I mean, like I can see the potential of a little kid providing so much joy and wisdom and lessons to learn. And then when you combine that with more people around, then you create this beautiful sense of community and just enrichment and just a general enrichment. And so each other, what makes us and a sense of belonging with each other. So Ron, it was an honor and pleasure to interview you today. If you have a website that you would like to people to visit you, you can share it right now.
Oh, sure. It's my website is www.ronfstop, RONFSTOP, like a stop, f-stop in a camera.com. And there's a good deal of my work up there as well as a number of cranky blog posts. I'm good at cranky blog posts.
I love your black and white photography in just general. And do you have photos, colorful, co- colorful photos on that website? It's all 100% black and
It's
white.
almost, I think it's almost all black. It's almost all, possibly all black and white.
Yeah.
I did do a project I found at a garage sale, I found a couple of boxes of 4 by 5 inch glass plate negatives,
Mm,
and I printed them from about 1900.
mm,
And I printed them in a technology that was common then, which I did once and will never do again, by the way. And instead of black, they are a rich chocolatey brown. and white, and the prints are lovely, but once was enough.
No, not all of them. Yeah. Well, our time is up. Once again, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to chat with you and get to know more about who you are. And I know this is just a little glimpse, but there's way more than this impossible for us to capture. But I hope this is not the last interview that we do with you, or the last project that we work with you.
I'm ready when you are.
Well, thank you, everyone, and I hope that we can see you in the next time.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LP FM.
We envision ourselves sitting at a round table where no one is the leader and stories are heard respectfully, regardless of gender, age, sexual orientation, disabilities, or ethnicity. We want to embrace our differences and similarities. We are creating a place where visitors can connect with the stories and each other. Our mission is we collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people. We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices represents us all, honoring our past, celebrating our present, and uniting to cultivate our future. This project allows us to reach out to demographics who might be unable to visit the museum. People with disabilities, low-income families, people who don't trust museums, and more. In partnership, we are launching a locally programmed new radio station at the museum, featuring recorded and live Highline's heritage, history, culture, arts, and more. Are you interested in sharing your story? Email director@highlinemuseum.org.